John, you good?
I'm good. Let's roll, baby.
Ladies and gentlemen, leaders and fighters for freedom and liberty and the American dream, the best is yet to come.
Right, folks, welcome back to Build It, the non-league soccer podcast where we talk to non-league soccer people. I haven't got an introduction prepared, but joining us this week for sure is the owner, not the founder, just the owner. Right, Brandon?
Yeah. The owner,
right.
Co-founder, yeah.
I tell you what, you do your own intro because I'm too lazy to have done it. Joining us this week is...
Yeah, no worries. Brandon Jaltz, owner of Temecula FC.
There you go, easy. I know you
like
say the
that,
name.
Nick, let's always let the guests introduce themselves. They're way better at it than you, and they can pronounce things properly.
Absolutely, yeah, in an American accent, and they just get the hang of it, and it gives me time to not talk. John's here as well. Hi, John.
Hey, what's up?
Brandon, thank you so much for joining us. Could you start, I guess, just by giving us a very quick history of your time in soccer and how you came to be involved with a soccer club, and then we'll talk about Temecula in particular.
Yeah, no worries. So I always loved the game, have no idea why. From a young age, it was always my happy place on the field. It probably was. My parents got divorced when I was young, and it wasn't a bad divorce, nothing like that, but always just found it to be very clear and fun just to be out on the field, even as a young kid. None of the world else around mattered. School, friends, nothing. You just played, had fun. And I was lucky to be very, very blessed with ability. And out of high school, I signed a professional contract and was playing with the Galaxy's reserve team, which is back in the old USISL, which is Orange County Zodiac. And played there for 2 years and went out to Boston, which was a great experience. Played with alongside Steve Nicol, and he was a player manager, and learned a lot there. And then they went bankrupt, and it seemed like everywhere I went, the teams just went bankrupt. But when I was there, a couple players from Northumbria, they were both in I know with Newcastle United's youth and stuff, and they were involved. And Ryan was scouting for Newcastle, and they were over in the U.S. and saw me in a training session, then saw me in a match, and asked, hey, if I'm ever in England, hey, come on over, we'll sort you out, this, that, and the other. So I was down actually training with Staines Football Club in London, and it wasn't going well. Like the weather, the pitch, like not that the trial wasn't going well or the training like that. It just like it was spotty. Like I'd be in a hotel for 4 or 5 days doing nothing, and then
in Staines,
out getting a training in and stuff like that. So so I called them up, and they said, okay, well, I didn't know them super well. Got on a bus because that's about how much money I had left after being in London for a couple of weeks, and got up there, and they picked me up like 11 o'clock right out of St. James, right in front of St. James Park, and took me to their house, treated me like family, and I ended up playing in a game against Middlesbrough for Scunthorpe like a few days later, and then we started talking about some work permit stuff, and found out that it literally was impossible for me to play football over there at a professional level because I couldn't get a work permit. But they said, hey, stick around, play for our non-league team, jump in and start coaching with us, and we'll start introducing you to people and get your youth license or your youth badges. And I did those up in Edinburgh with the Scottish Football Association. And I would just bounce back, leaving the country every 90 days and then going back and forth, so on and so forth, until I, couldn't do that anymore. I was getting in trouble at the airports.
One of those dirty immigrants, right?
Pretty much.
I feel your pain, trust me.
hey, if you don't have a job, and what are you doing over here, and how are you living, and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And finally, they just told me, hey, you better just stay in your country for a while. Otherwise, you're not going to be allowed back to the UK. So I was scared of that. And my girlfriend at the time, who is now my wife, you know, we were going back and forth this on and off stuff all the time, and decided to, you know, get back on. And long story short, I got into coaching here in the U.S. with the youth, and that's all they really had in this Temecula area where I grew up. It was a horrible experience. I can't stand youth soccer, the way that it's done. It's just all about money. Kids are just a tool for all these big clubs, and the way they're treated and everything, and the developmental process, everything is completely wrong and backwards. And so after quitting like 3 different clubs, thinking grass was greener on the other side, I really didn't like soccer as much anymore, being in the youth club coaching environment. So I just convinced my wife, hey, can I take out, you know, some money from the 401k and start an MPSL club? And she said no. And, you know, then after a little while, she said yes. So that's kind of where it started. We've been around now since 2013, so almost on 10 years. And we're now in a NISA affiliate league, Southwest Premier League. And yeah, just trying to get out of the tail ends of navigating what COVID did to small businesses, really. Which, you know, pretty much destroyed them. And, you know, for us not to be able to really play matches or be in a stadium or sell tickets or, you know, have to shut down shop and all this stuff was something to recover from. And, but we have, and now I'm working on with WeFunder to get more supporter ownership. That was a real eye opener, COVID, in terms of what if something were to ever happen to me or financially, that the football club couldn't go on. You know, if we have hundreds and hundreds of supporter owners, well, the football club will never die. Yeah. It might go through ups and downs, but there'll always be stewards there to keep it going. So that's the goal now. Get a bunch of supporter ownership in, and, you know, build that. So way. That's where we're at.
Is that community support as much as anything else? Like, I mean, for all the good of a fan in Providence, Rhode Island, or wherever, right? And their money's as good as everyone else's. Yeah. They're not invested physically in Temecula succeeding, right? So are you focusing more on the, you know, 50-mile radius for memberships and ownerships?
Yeah, anybody can invest from anywhere, but I would never turn anybody away. No, you know, because a lot of people from outside the area are friends of mine or ex-teammates that I played together with, and they just want to support. It's just, you know, or you have people that just they like what we're doing. I mean, it could be as simple as they like our logo or whatever it is, and and you know, they've got spare $200, $300, $400, $500, and who cares? Let me throw it in there. I like soccer. But ideally for me is I have to look honestly and say, would I go to a game? You know, what would be my reason to go to a Temecula FC game? And it's really hard to justify a lot of it. I would say of myself, it's like a purist love of the game. Absolutely love non-league football and going to those games and everything that it's about, compared to going to a Premier League match, which are great as well. But, you know, we don't have so many of those things that is great about non-league football. Number one, you don't have any promotion relegation. So the result of the games in all reality mean nothing. Like, except for maybe you get to win a trophy at the end of the year, and then you're in the same league this next year trying to do the same thing. You know, so that's out of it. The games are not so important. Number two, you can't have a pint, you know, so you can't go get a beer and hang out like literally right on the touchline, you know, hanging over, you know, enjoying, you know, the banter back and forth with players and supporters or whatnot. Yeah. Because we have to be at a high school field, and then the optics of that with the football lines and the track around it aren't very appealing. So there's a few things there that I had to look at is really, how do I get more people involved other than get them involved, skin in the game, part ownership, feel that they have a voice, come into the office, have a word with me, come into the store, have a drink, let's, watch some games and tell me what you can help do for the football club. Because everybody's got ideas and everybody has their opinions on, hey, well, this will get more people to the game. Hey, this will get better players in the club. Hey, this will do this. This will do that. But the reality is, anybody that's been involved in this level of the game in the United States, it's not easy. It's a grind.
It's not. It's a complete grind, and it's easier the more people who are grinding with you, right? Which is kind of where you're at. But you've mentioned we, and it might just be the royal we of Temecula, but I'm hoping it's bigger than that. How many people are along with you for the journey? Not in terms of memberships, but actually running and organising the day-to-day club.
Well, I do probably 99% of the day-to-day for the most part, but we do have a really tight group of support that is engaged every day, and then our staff, our coaching staff for our youth, all the way up to the first team, we communicate probably every 15 minutes through a chat daily throughout the whole day about everything, and then we have a couple really, really good supporters that are very much involved in and out of the store every day. So we probably have right now, about 25 people that are now, they're all investors as well once the WeFunder thing clears, but that are somewhat engaged in the club, trying to benefit it, trying to grow it, trying to help the community.
Yeah. All right, cool. Because all those obstacles and roadblocks, they are kind of par for the course for American soccer at the non-league level, right? It's just the world that we move in. So with the greatest respect, those difficulties are no different for you than they are for everyone else. It's just how you deal with them. And I definitely like the owner membership model is a very interesting one, and I'm sure John's got questions to follow up on it, because it is one of the more obvious ways of getting the community in whatever frame to care about you and to care about the longevity of the organisation. So, John, over to you.
Well, no, I mean, I think I'm a sucker for business structure at this level, because I think there's a number of ways that people accomplish success and some accomplish failure, actually. But yeah, that's my question's always things like, you get, let's say you have those 25 investor, supporter, owners, or whatever that, terminology is. How do you organize that day to day? If you're doing 99% of the day to day now, is part of your plan to reduce that by turning things over to some of these other owners, or are they writing a check and feeling like, yeah, I'm here if you need me, but I'm not here for the day to day stuff? How do you balance management of that ownership group and those types of people?
Well, we'll see when it goes. We've only had a couple meetings because it's never really been. Nothing's official yet. We haven't even started the paperwork. Hopefully, WeFunder is going to submit the paperwork on Friday, and that's as long as I get all of the financials in and everything in by tomorrow. So I'll be working to get that all in tomorrow because we had to hit a $50,000 goal before WeFunder would even start anything. So we just hit that about a week and a half ago, I think it was. So before, like I said, I only had one meeting, and that was to try to gain more investment and a little bit more engagement from the people that have already committed an investment. Now, most of these people are business people. I'm not going to say I am. I'm extremely hardworking and passionate, but I'm hoping that the people invested, even if they don't care to do any day-to-day, that they lend their knowledge of whatever business they're in, or their ideas, or just the word of mouth. So the way I look at it, so if I can get locally, just in the Temecula, Marietta, surrounding areas, within a 20-minute drive, if I could get 100 people invested, most families in this area, because they're all families, have at least 2.5 kids. So you have a husband, you have a wife, for the most part. 2.5 kids is what they say. If we have 100, then most likely every home game, we should clear 300, 400 people at a home game. Some people would be able to be missing this, that, and the other. Now, if they're all able to now bring out a neighbor or friends or family members as well, and we double that, and we're now up to 600-800 every game instead of where we're usually like 125 to 750 people at a match. I've never been able to figure out why. One match we have a lot, some matches we have none. It's Southern California. There's millions of things going on constantly. But if we can get a consistent number, well, then we can change how we do everything. Then we can look towards purchasing land, knowing that, hey, we have a consistent 600 people coming to matches. This is how much stuff they're buying. If we had beer and more food on sale, this is how much more. And then the things will pencil out, the business plan would pencil out, if that makes sense. Ideally, getting to the point where we have a board and everything is voted on. Now, obviously, if you want a business to move quickly and be able to do things, you don't want to vote on every single minor thing. But anything that's major with the club that could affect the supporters, could affect the investment, could affect the players, is something that would be a board decision. And that's really the goal. I mean, and how I look at it being. And then hopefully we can really affect change, in our area, and bring the culture that I was able to be a part of over in the UK. And what everybody in the rest of the world is able to be a part of, we can bring that here to Temecula. I think it's something important.
And geographically, Temecula is kind of out. It's between LA and San Diego, sort of, kind of, but it's kind of out by itself. So you're a little bit on an island, like you're not in one of the big cities, right? So you can kind of have that community pride, right? Because you're a little bit isolated. Is that? I don't know the geography that well, but is that right?
No, you're spot on, 100%. I think we would have a better chance than San Diego or LA in terms of a lower league professional team getting a good crowd and a good experience, because of the fact that we would be the biggest game in town in terms of entertainment, because in the end, a lot of it is just entertainment, family entertainment, or adult, having a beer, watching a sporting event type entertainment. And I think we'd have a much better chance. And when we were in the MPSL, we had the biggest crowds. We drew the best crowds. We have the best support. And the other teams were in Orange County, LA, Las Vegas, Arizona, in major cities. And we're outdrawing them. Even our away crowd at most games is bigger. I mean, we got to go up and play OCFC in the U.S. Open Cup on Sunday, and I got to think we'll probably have 200 more people than they have, if they've got anybody other than just the girlfriends or wives of the players or parents.
Yeah.
Can I keep going, Nick?
Please do. I like it when you talk, John. Go.
Thank you. So again, I'm a nerd. So this level of soccer is hard to be profitable, or at least sustainability through finances, not necessarily profitable like line your pockets. What are your revenue streams besides obviously like merchandise and ticket sales? And have you found any other really cool ways to generate income?
So we have youth all the way from like recreational starter little kid level all the way up to the first team, and the youth is part of the revenue source. And we're not like one of these mega youth clubs, and we don't ever want to be. So it's not like that millions of dollars type of thing. Like, but that is something that keeps us steady. because those are all fans. They go to games. They come in here to the shop, and they're the parents that buy, a T-shirt or a sweater or a backpack for the kid or any of that, a scarf, so on and so forth. So the youth is definitely an area where it keeps us sustainable. We've made a profit every year, so we haven't ever lost money. And I think that's really just because I don't have like a luxury lifestyle or anything. I mean, one of my cars is the team van. We rent our house, me and my wife and the 4 kids. We have like one real vacation that we take every year. So we don't care about money. Not that we don't like it, and we would like a lot more so we can invest a lot more and do a lot more. But I think that's part of it that helps, is it's not doing this just to make money, like you said, or whatnot. It's really just doing it so that it's sustainable growing, if that makes sense.
Yeah. What's your annual, if you don't mind me intruding, what's your annual budget? What do you guys spend a year to run the club, especially like on the adult side and competing in the Southwest Premier League now?
Yeah, it's better now, and so it's lower. So, but for the whole club to operate per year is about $8,000 a month, and that includes me. So that includes me being able to work this full time and pay car payments, phone payment, rent, house.
So you're doing this full time. What a luxury that would be, huh, Nick?
The things you can achieve, for sure.
Yeah, no kidding. So I do
about 16 hours a day.
Yeah, I know that non-league is 27 hours a day, 8 days a week. Anything else like any other like fundraiser stuff you've done or anything like that has helped move the needle to obviously generate 8,000? And Southwest Premier League now plays. I was actually on a call with Matt Morse recently, 20 minutes ago. So I know Matt a little bit. But you guys are a fall, spring. NPSL was a summer. Now are you guys playing more year round then?
So we've always been year round. So even in the MPSL. So in the MPSL, we on the West here had the longest by far season. We would start preseason in January, usually start February, March, and in July. And then we've put together a cup competition for all the local adult teams that are like in a league, not like a tournament in terms of a tournament meaning just, hey, throw a team in there, but the Riverside County Cup. So if you're in Riverside County and you have a team, say like in MPSL, well, there's none in that anymore, but UPSL, the old PDL, USL L2, or like the Southwest Premier League, any adult team that plays in a league, similar to like just entering the US Open Cup, could enter in and play, and we would do that through the fall. So that is how we do things in the fall to keep games going on, being able to sell tickets, and it's usually our biggest money makers to help with the revenue is the Riverside County Cup. And that was one thing that was always concerning to me is the MPSL, there wasn't as much of a draw in the crowds as we got in the Riverside County Cup when it was local teams playing, because there was less interest. I mean, it's great a team's coming in from Arizona or Las Vegas or LA, Orange County, but when we bring a team in that's only 15 miles away and a lot of the players know each other because they grew up maybe high school playing against each other, social media is different at that point. People then are saying, oh, hey, you going to the Riverside County Cup game, and now they know 100, 200 different little people that all know a couple of the players, and they're maybe playing on either side of the team, and it's more interesting, if that makes sense. There's more of a story, and there was definitely more engagement that we got. And our Riverside County Cup is our, I think it was 725 people. It was one of our biggest crowds. Outside of doing kind of like a game against 1904 that we did, we had a decent crowd against them, like a friendly game. But that's how we stay year round. And we have the kids training year round. The first team kids are usually training year round. They take off a week or two here or there, but they usually don't stop either.
Also helps if you don't have a Midwest winter, right? That's a huge win. But yeah,
Wow,
such is American geography.
Yeah, I mean, that's got to be horrible. I always talk with some people.
Thank you. Yeah, rub it in, Brandon. Rub it in. That's I know. It's so miserable in Southern California.
I know. Just looking at their average temperatures, right about now it's about 80 out there, John. 80.
Yeah, it's too hot, to be honest.
Yeah,
I can make it 80 in my house too.
No, but I became a good friend of mine. The owner of Duluth is a really nice guy, and constantly discussing about how hard it is. It's because the window of being able to build actual support and drive sponsorship and drive all this stuff is so limited, because sometimes they still have crazy snow on the ground in April. And even though they have a good team and they have a good community and this, that, and the other, it's just, it's just hard to do at this level. You don't have like heated surfaces and, heated stands where people enjoy being outside, like, when it's only 20 degrees out.
That's not entirely true. It's all of our facilities are fully heated in July every year. So aside from that, you're right, but we do have heated facilities for about 70 days a year. Quite beautiful actually during that month and a half. But it is different. So something we struggle with too is how do you remain relevant in your community with a spring, summer season or whatever. It definitely stresses the brain trust to figure out how do we stay important, how do we keep people thinking of us during the holidays and things like that. So it's definitely a struggle. What is your Nick? I'm going to nerd out for Nick. What is your marketing approach strategy? I follow you guys on at least some of the socials, and you guys always kind of putting stuff out. Are you doing all that yourself as well?
Yeah. It's all, like I said, 99%. Everything's me. Our strategy or idea behind it, well, for me, I can't tell you. I've probably talked to or had at least 100 different marketers come in and meet with me and give their ideas. Hey, I like what you're doing on, this, that, and the other, but what about this? And I always say, come on in, please. I don't know anything about this. Come in, talk to me. I'd love to learn. Let's see what you can do, so on and so forth. And the main thing is still, I'll be honest with you, no idea in terms of why some of our posts get 5,000 reach and some of them get like 12. And we've tried different hours of the day, different things. But one thing we have definitely found out, the more real we are, and when I say real, like, it's not like we spent $800 to put a video together and now we put that out on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter and that gets like a ton of views. No, it's just certain things that catch people and go a little bit viral and people like it. But the more real we found out that it is, not edited, not any of that, is what most people seem to like, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes an absolute ton of sense.
Nick, you sent me that article about the new thing, right, with TikTok and everything is don't worry about quality of the video production, but just get it out. And people want the
rustic.
Whatever they just want to see it.
Yeah, bells and whistles. No, they don't want slick. And slick isn't our brand in non-league, right? If we were slick, we'd have marketing budgets, we'd have marketing professionals, we'd do it the MLS way. And that's part of the appeal. Yeah. And certainly from non-league in the UK, right? Part of the appeal is it's mud and spit and coarse language and, a little bit rough around the edges. And you can't sugarcoat that. And the American market is different, and you've experienced that as well. But it's still got to be authentic. And if the experience they're coming to is 200, 500 people huddled around in a blazing Arizona, in blazing desert sun, watching some, let's be honest, not great soccer, then you can't pretend it's anything else. So why would you? You just have to be. We are Temecula, and the reason you're coming here to represent Temecula, not because you love soccer per se. So yeah. They're absolutely going to chime with realism, for want of a better phrase. I wouldn't. Yeah, just to carry on the marketing thing. I'm not surprised that they don't see any, or you can't find any logic in what works and what doesn't, because there is at this level the number of views that our posts get, and I mean ours collectively as non-league soccer people, unless you're old school Detroit or someone that's broken free, the audience isn't big enough to do anything on trend or to do anything predictable, because there's not enough. It's not big enough because. So yeah, I would say just keep on keeping on. Like, it's a completely a time suck, and if you're doing 99% of everything, I would encourage you to focus on one medium, whether that's Facebook or Twitter or whatever, and just build from that. But this isn't a place where we lecture you. We want to know more about you. It's true. Your brand.
Yeah, no, it's great. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, we can, but we're not going to. It's my podcast, so I call the shots. Your brand, the quail. I'm guessing and again, you can bore us with it. I'm guessing the quail is significant Temecula-wise, but it's so simple, and yet it seems to have caught an awful lot of people's attention. I guess it's easily identifiable, right? It's not. I don't know. Why did you go the way you went? Why did you go red? Why did you go with the quail? And were you expecting the buy-in that it created?
Yeah. Okay. So very, very, very basic. So there were two options. So I met with an old teammate of mine, Vince, and we met at a Starbucks, and I told him my idea. Hey, we need to bring a minor league team in here, and so on and so forth. And then we started the idea of the names, right? Well, what I wanted was something that was very much identified to local Temecula. I love this area. When I grew up here, there were no traffic lights, no grocery stores. I mean, I literally was swimming in the creek every summer. I mean, we had the run of the whole area. It was just completely different than it is now. And not that it's worse now, don't get me wrong, but I wanted something that really represented the community, especially because I spent so much time over in the UK with a lot of these small clubs, playing against some of these small clubs, but they had massive history. They had so much history in these small little communities, these small little town clubs that I really enjoyed that. Like I liked that very much. I much more prefer going into, a damp, wet change than I did going in and playing against Middlesbrough. Now Middlesbrough had a brand new training facility just built, like the best one in the UK at that time, I think in 2002. And it was gorgeous, but it had no charm. It didn't have, all that. So I really liked that. And I wanted that to be here, something that represented this area. So we had two choices that we chose from. One was the Indians, and my wife, she's got some Native American heritage, and but that's always such a controversial topic. People take it one way or the other, especially right now in sports and stuff. So I reached out to the local tribe, which is Pechanga, and asked, and they asked kind of what names would we think of using and stuff, and they just weren't really into it. So we 100% respected that, and we didn't do it. And then we went to the quail. Now, the reason why I went to the quail is everybody's got sharks, grizzly bears, tigers, all these big, scary animals that are supposed to represent, fear or strength or whatnot, right? And we didn't really buy into any of that being relevant for what we wanted to achieve, which was like a pure family, type club. And the quail is local to the area. It's extremely fast. They're ground animals. They stick together like in a pack. And they're really cool. And they're the California state bird as well. And no one before us, couldn't find anybody ever using it. So we wanted to be unique. We wanted it to stand out. There's only one other bird, I think it's a partridge, that has the top knot, the feathers on the top of the head. So it was very, very unique. And everybody, right when we first put it together, it hasn't changed really since then. The only thing we changed was the ball. And I didn't agree with it, but the majority of people wanted the ball changed because nobody in the U.S. could tell the difference between a volleyball and a soccer ball. So they thought we were volleyball. So hopefully one day that changes and we can go back to the retro ball, because it's my favorite, and a lot of people still wear their old retro shirts because that's their favorite. But that's what we went with. And in all honesty, like, our basic tee with the bird and the soccer ball is by far our number one seller. And I don't know why they just say they like it. It's cool.
Yeah, no, it's super simplistic. I love it. I'm not a branding expert in any way, shape, or form, but yeah, I do like it. It's simple and it's easily identifiable. Yeah, it's worked for you, so hooray! Right, John, anything to keep us going while I check my notes?
Yeah, hey, my big question for you, Brandon, is you're doing 99% of it on a day-to-day basis, or maybe not even day-to-day, but month-to-month, year-to-year. What is the biggest struggle that you have in running a club?
Well, outside of money, because that would make a lot of things easier, because then you could hire people to do stuff. Outside of money, the biggest problem is other soccer. I'll be honest with you. It's really sad, but I think other soccer in the community is the biggest issue, without a doubt. They, in this area, youth soccer is a big moneymaker. This is one of the reasons why I really didn't like youth soccer and I quit it. So you have all these other local clubs and their coaches and stuff that will literally tell their kids you can't go to a Temecula FC game, because they don't want to potentially lose their kids. So here's a great example. There's only one recreational program in the cities of Temecula, and they have over 3,500 kids. And it took us 10 years just for them to promote one of our games upcoming. Well, 9.5 years. They just did about 6 months ago or so. But their reasoning, I sat down with the board multiple times. I've talked with the president. Their reasoning is they don't want kids to come to the game and then want to play for Temecula FC, if you can believe that. So that's why they won't promote us. So they don't want to lose their business.
Which, yeah, and I know that's their responsibility is to their business, and you kind of can't blame them for taking that initial approach. So how can you, obviously in 10 years you've tried to open up lines of communication. When you started, how long ago did you start your youth sides? Did going into competition with them essentially, did that make it worse? Or was it already?
Yeah. So here, I'll go into that. So when we first started, we weren't going to do any youth. We wanted to bring the community together. We saw the hatred with the youth clubs and the recreational soccer. Like I said, I grew up here. I coached for all the local teams. So I knew all of it. And I didn't want to be involved in that. So the last thing we wanted to do was start our youth. But then we had our first game, and me and Vince, because he was still co-owner at the time, we're thinking we're going to get 1,000 people out there, man. And we're like, all right, this is what we're going to do with all the money that comes in. We have these ideas, and we're going to be able to give everybody training kits, and we're going to be able to get everybody jackets, and we're going to be able to do this and rent a bus for our next game. And we ended up getting 45 people came, and a lot of them kids that were getting in for nothing, right? And so I go and then I start calling everybody that I emailed, because I coached hundreds of kids in the area, so I knew all their families. And I called a couple that I know really well, that I know would be honest with me, and they pretty much just said that our club and our coach told us we can't go to the games, otherwise we're not going to play on the weekend pretty much. And so once I realized that no matter what, we're not going to get the support, I asked a few of the other people, and they said, well, their thinking is what you're going to do is sneaky, is get everybody to start coming to the games, and then you're going to start a youth club and take everybody away from everybody. So either way, we weren't going to get these kids. They're not going to come. We're not going to get the families. The clubs are going to pressure these parents. And a lot of people would think, oh, well, how can a club pressure parents? Parents are so scared that they'll get blackballed and their kid won't play because people do that. You know, I was at a club in the local area, and literally every single one of our coaches meetings was nothing about development. It was all about, hey, if you see any of your kids at this other club's clinic, you need to tell them they can't go or they're not going to start on the weekend. You know, it's just that bad. It's really not good. So then we started the youth. And then we started getting bigger crowds out, good crowds, to the point where we had to move from the school we were at to another school because the crowd was getting too big, and we pretty much got kicked out because there was trash in the bushes and people standing in the bushes, and they found some beer bottles and this, that, and the other. So we kind of had grown that space. And so then we started going to the local bigger high school, not the private school. So it, in a way, does it hurt? I don't think so. I don't think anything would have ever changed. But it's potentially having youth could hurt. But there's a lot of other things on top of that that come to the point where these clubs aren't developing any professional players, like none. Not developing even top college players, hardly any. And we've got a local area of 500,000, you know, people within a 20-minute drive. I mean, Iceland's smaller than that. And for there not to be any players being developed, so we're not getting any first-team players out of this because none of them are good enough. So we also had to look at the fact of, hey, well, we need to develop players for our program. So we have, and since then we've done okay. We've had, you know, I think 8 players now go from our league at least up to the next professional level or higher. So either, you know, NISA, USL, or MLS. And then one's over in Europe. So we've been able to do a decent job giving these kids first-team football opportunities. So that's important as well. You know, it's not just financial.
So that's the marketing strategy that, I mean, I get it after you explain it, like, hey, if there's no way they're going to get on board with what we're doing, then we're going to just take care of ourselves and pretend you don't exist. And then build, you're writing a better story for those players, essentially, that when they age out of their under 19s at whatever the other club is, you know,
yeah,
then come try out for our men's team, and you're not good enough because they didn't actually develop you. And you can kind of write your own story then of success and moving on. And I mean, I get it. It's every community is different. We've evaluated things like that for a few years, and it is every situation is so unique. And the people running those youth clubs and even the people running adult clubs. I mean, you and I, you actually sound, your story is very similar to ours, and there's a lot of crazy people like me and you that actually aren't very good at what they do, but they just kind of keep moving forward. And so I understand why youth clubs would be a little reserved to sort of jump in bed with somebody like, you don't really know what's their long term, what's their motivation, and I think that's a really unique side of it. But I think you have an opportunity to tell those success stories and actually grow that youth side a little bit by saying, like, it ain't just about the money for us. We actually back it up a little bit. So again, not telling you how to do your thing. I just I think it's always neat to hear what everybody's dealing with.
Yeah, no, just to echo that, what John says, I'd be shouting from the rooftops. If you've got a pipeline where you've got one kid to the professional level, I'd be shouting about it. I'd be giving updates on his career every single week. If you've got 5, 6, or 7, including MLS, that's huge. Now, they may have come from other platforms and just come through you for, you know, half a day maybe, but claim it. It's go crazy. Jeez, I wouldn't be sitting on that news at all. That's whether we like it or not. Youth soccer is a huge moneymaker at this level, and if you've got a Temecula arm, a youth arm, then with the crudest way, exploit it.
Yeah. Okay. So we agree, and we do promote it, but we also have a couple other things that we won't do. So we won't tie in with MLS. and that for parents is a problem. So we have been asked a few times, one by Timbers, ones we were working with FC Cincinnati to do like a affiliate type thing out here. We start those conversations because I know people at both clubs and other ones as well, but like that's not our. I want to say I don't want to be a hypocrite, if that makes sense, and just get a MLS extra or next, badge on the shoulder so we can now take in all these players, charge more money, and it be a financial benefit for the clubs, because that's really what everybody else does. But also we don't want them tied into the MLS and a closed system and, all that, if that makes sense. And then there is an MLS Next youth program in our area, and there's a few other within 30-minute drive. So the parents don't know the game. The parents don't care, other than that they want to be able to post on social media, hey, my kid's at an MLS Next club, if that makes sense.
No, it makes sense. I mean, it makes no sense, but it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, well, because it's hard. They don't know anything, and we can post stuff, and I can sit in here and talk to parents all day long, everywhere we've sent a player, and all the contacts we have and the people we talk to daily. But
for Christ's sakes, you're on this podcast. I mean, this alone ought to grow your youth by 30-40%. I mean, did you hear Nick talk? He's from England.
Yeah, added authenticity.
Exactly. Yeah, he's got much better chance with his accent. But the reality is that, like, for me, from what I've seen, for over 24 years of being around the youth game, is it's so fragile. And when I mean what's fragile is not as much the youth game per se, but the relationship with the parent, the player, and the football club is almost weekend to weekend. And that depends on, because they're not in it for the long-term development. For the most part, they're in it for their weekend of getting a win and being able to put that on social media, and their kid playing in the position they want to play the whole game, not being subbed out. And that's not realistic in development of a player, and it's not realistic in development of any kind, winning every single game by a lot. You need to lose just as much as you win. You need to play better teams, and if every time you're going to play a better team, your best player is going to leave and go to that team, or you have that hanging over you, that because it happens every game. If we lose to another team, they're talking to the parents in the parking lot, and it's just like, this isn't just our club. This is every club has to deal with this, and so it's not like, it's not cut and dry. And I would say there's really only one way to get out of it, and that's something at the top happening with USSF, changing it and building a platform that makes it more difficult for players to hop every other weekend to go loan for this team, now go loan for this team, now go play for this team, and now go do this. And the message should be local. There should be very, very much like, kids shouldn't be traveling more than 30 minutes in my opinion, until they're at least 14. I would say even 16. And we've got kids driving an hour and a half at 8 years old, going to play for these teams. And there's a reason why there's such a big dropout rate. What 8-year-old wants to spend 3 hours on the road instead of, spending those 3 hours in the street playing with friends, or, and that's all for the parents' dream. That's all for the parents' ideas. 8-year-old doesn't know anything. So
this has gone bleak, hasn't it? This is
you depressed me, Brandon. I think the fun part of it, like the thing that keeps me motivated, and I think you too, because you have the same passion, is Nick and I talk about this all the time when we're not recording our conversations, about the culture that doesn't exist in America. You've seen it firsthand. Yeah. I also was very good in my playing career, but I didn't go more than 15 minutes from home. So you'll have to take my word for it. But I think creating the culture honestly, welcome to Wrexham. just like Ted Lasso, but Welcome to Wrexham being, a little bit lower, like that's opening non-soccer people's eyes to soccer culture. Like that is one of the best tools out there for us to exploit as lower league clubs and say, look what it means to the people in Wrexham. That exists here. The only thing missing is all of you in the stands. Like that's all that's missing.
Yeah.
Like we're already running a club in your town for you. We just need you to get on board with what already exists here, and let's start our 130-year history. And I know that sounds really easy, and it gave me a glare. Like it's like that's the long game, but those are great things. Like to get the kids to just love the game and get the parents to just love coming out and having a pint, and get them loving the tailgating and all the things that they do with American football and that culture that is powerful here. How can we just tweak it and say, it doesn't matter what sport, you're still tailgating, you're still having fun, you're still having a beer, you're bringing the kids and the family, maybe, minor league baseball culture, whatever. I think there's a lot of things we can draw from if we can just tweak and twist. And I don't think it's too far off to just keep moving forward, right? And like correcting USSF, absolutely, there's things that could be done there, but you're actually on the front lines and boots on the ground doing it in your town. And if Nick and I talk about too, if you get 10 new fans every year, in 100 years, you're going to be in pretty good shape if you can keep sustaining.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I agree. We put that question out about Welcome to Wrexham. Will it help? And I think it's going to be extremely massive, especially with the younger generation.
It could be if they didn't swear so much, because unfortunately, I can't watch it with my children. So,
I say younger generation, like 20-somethings.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
okay.
I'm
young
43.
adults.
I'm 42. So
okay,
yeah,
so
I'm
that's
saying like those kids.
and even the non like just sports loving people that maybe watch Premier League still like on Saturday mornings, but they're not really soccer people. I think it just opens those eyes again. I go back to like it's not the highlights during the episodes of the games. It's the fan reaction that moves you, right? It gets you excited, like what it means to these people. And I think if crazy people like me and you keep doing what we're doing in our little communities, and I think there's a lot more crazies like us out there that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's no reason we can't be there. We're comparing to 130 years of history, and we want to be there, and we're just behind because of time.
Yeah. I think it was interesting as well what you said about that the turnout of the crowd when you were playing someone down the road or down the street or from the next county across rather than the name, because clubs like ours, we can't survive. In this environment, in the current environment, and this isn't a pro-rel podcast, as we feel like we have to say every week, but we can't survive trying to sell the dream, right? Because that funding isn't there, and there's no other way of getting it unless you have the funding. So our thing, and it sounds like your thing, is we are soccer in your community. By coming to support us, you are supporting your community and trying to engender that community pride that outside of high school sport, or college sport, if you're fortunate enough, just isn't a thing. There's no adult community pride, as far as I can tell, in America. Not to denigrate America, I just mean, but if you can do this, if you can give people a reason to be proud to wear the red bird on their jersey and to put the decals on their car and to walk down the street and go do the grocery run when it's not match day in their jersey, that's huge. That's how the grain grows, I believe. It's not by it might be by pro-rel, I don't know, but pro-rel needs thousands of us before it can be a thing, I believe. But that's a rant for another day. Sorry, derailed it again. John, any
No, I agree.
Yeah. Any last closing questions, John?
No, I'm excited now that we've spoken, Brandon. I'm excited to follow you guys on your journey, and like all of us, right? We try to take the best ideas that we see around the country from other clubs and I'll apply those things in our own communities and see what works. And I hope you guys will continue to succeed and keep growing and just keep kicking ass out there.
I appreciate it, brother. It means a lot. It means a lot.
Honestly, it's easy to be head down in the weeds and just think you're doing this on your own. And whilst you may be doing it in your own, in the club HQ, and there may be no one within 50 or 100 miles of you feeling like you're doing it, we're learning week by week, right, John, that there's more than enough across the country that something's happening. What that looks like, I don't know. But you're not allowed. And by doing this podcast, we're trying to build networks and communications. What the Midwest League have done and the SoCal League have done, and this affiliation, it's the Southwest now, isn't it, not the SoCal? But these affiliations that are growing, they didn't exist, right? We are building networks, we're building friendships, we're building support groups, and it's huge, and it can't be underestimated. Like, that old adage of like, it takes a village to raise a child. It's going to take a village, it's going to take the community to raise the sport. It just is. So there you go. There's me pontificating.
Yeah, no, believe me, I agree 100%. I've had massive issues with, like, I sat on the board for the MPSL for 8 years, and so many of the things were anti-soccer. I can't tell you how many things, complete anti-competition and anti, soccer in terms of not allowing anybody to be around you. And holding marketplaces and
the market,
this, that, and the other.
No, screw the market. We're stronger. Like, I don't know, but I live like an hour away from DeKalb. To me, and from being in England, right, I should be driving past 30, 40, 50, 60 clubs to get to DeKalb. I probably wouldn't go to DeKalb because there'd be more convenient places to go now. But it shouldn't be like, well, you've got this market, therefore that's yours, and there's no one allowed within 50 miles of you. Because, as we said, the community doesn't care what league you play in. The community wants to be beating the next town over. There is no bigger game in high school football than beating the neighbourhood high school, is there? It's it's not rocket science, or it shouldn't be. Maybe it is, and maybe we're just the smartest people in the room. Who knew? Brandon, is there anybody else, assuming you're now going to be listening to the entire back catalogue and subscribing to this podcast and listening forever forward, is there anyone off the top of your head that you would like on this podcast, like us to talk to?
Well, what do you guys look for? I mean, I think there's a ton of really good people in the game, in all honesty, that are really, working purely to benefit their community and the game. But there's also a lot of other, interesting people to talk to and hear their ideas.
We've spoken to experts in volunteers and experts in Excel, experts in marketing, experts in sponsorship. Like, I'm open. Like, if there's someone that is in your little black book of contacts that you think would be invaluable to clubs outside of Temecula, then we're all ears. And it doesn't matter if they're not soccer focused. We will talk to them.
We'll turn the conversation into soccer.
I'll talk to a few people, and then get them in touch with you 100% if they're interested. Okay.
Fantastic. Oh, very much appreciate it. All right, Brandon, thank you very much for your time. Best of luck with everything that goes on 2023 and going forward. Hopefully our paths will cross again. Paths will cross again in the near, not too distant future.
Do you hear how he says it, Brandon? He says it like paths. Paths will cross.
That's because I'm posh. Well, just apropos of absolutely nothing, Brendan, I asked you offline if there was any music you wanted to play you out, as it were. Knowing what I know now from your Twitter feed about where you stand on the upcoming Wrexham game that's on ESPN in the Cup, I have the perfect song. It's the perfect. For me, it's just perfect. I think you'll enjoy it too. So even if you fast forward through the whole thing, just listen to the last 30 seconds, and I hope you enjoy the closing credits to this podcast. Thank you very much for your time, my friend.
Thanks, Brandon.
Of course. Thank you. Have a great day.
Take care.
John.